Good afternoon, everyone, members of the media and all of the listening public. I wish to address a number of matters today, particularly around the issue of agriculture and farming. Recently, several commercial farmers have publicly announced their concerns that Bermuda would not have potatoes for this upcoming season's crop. I am happy to remove those fears for all of the public today and share with the people of Bermuda that after meeting all the phytosanitary requirements needed to ensure the ongoing good health of the island's environment, both seed potato and strawberries will be a part of this year's upcoming crop, and shipments have arrived of the seedlings of both to the island. I'm also pleased to provide an update on the significant efforts that the government has in place to assist local farmers in creating a vibrant local agriculture sector, which will strengthen our island's food security. The challenge is to make nutritious food available, affordable, and certainly a reliable supply. This need has never been more required than now, as we all are acutely aware of the global events that have challenged food production and also supply chains. Bermuda has been affected, and we continue to obviously experience those issues. The pandemic and the war in Ukraine obviously have shown us that small island communities like Bermuda can be significantly impacted by the issues that challenge supply, resulting in higher costs and overall reduction in quality, quantity, and reliability, and also availability of certain essential food products. Coupled with the ongoing problem experienced by our own local agriculture, these challenges have put a significant pressure on our food producers. These issues include the loss of growing areas, with land now being used for obviously different types of developments, such as real estate. So traditional farming sector is challenged. Additionally, our local agriculture must contend with high production costs versus cheaper imports. And what we all know is a vastly large global food industry, which obviously is very competitive. At one time, we farmed thousands of acres of land in Bermuda, and that just a century ago was the case. We produced enough to even export. If people remember, the Bermuda lilies and onions were features of Bermuda's export and a part of the economy. Currently, we only have about 750 acres of land compared to the thousands of acres of land zoned agricultural. And over perhaps a century ago. And we only farm now a fraction of that 750 acres, about 350. Bermuda, over the years, has embraced real estate development, tourism, and other commercial activities, which has obviously depleted considerable amount of our land, and our farmland in particular. While development has obviously undoubtedly contributed to the substantial increase of economic opportunity, raise the country's standard of living, and increase the population to benefit many, many Bermudians. The price of that has been the loss of land for local food production. The government has traditionally provided significant assistance to the local farming sector through an economic embargo system for local produce, the services provided by the Agriculture Service Center, as well as the fact that any goods imported in association with local food production is duty-free, including materials, seed, and farming equipment. However, the government recognizes it can do more to offset the local and international pressures impacting our local farmers, which is why the Ministry of Home Affairs, in partnership with the Ministry of Economy and Labor, is currently developing an integrated agriculture strategy. The goal is to revitalize and strengthen and secure Bermuda's agricultural sector against natural and artificial events detrimental to our well-being by increasing our capacity to grow and produce high-quality, nutritious food, details of which I will share, and certainly the Minister of Economy will share together in the upcoming months of what that strategy will look like. More recently, local farmers have highlighted theft of produce as a severe problem, commonly known as night farming. The government takes a zero tolerance towards this activity. And most importantly, people must understand this seriously cuts into the earnings capability of our farmers. You're literally taking food out of their mouths and the mouths of Bermuda residents when you participate in this activity. It also increases the price of produce because the farmer has to bear the cost of those losses. And so ultimately does the consumer. The department is currently piloting cameras, mobile cameras at different sites, and we will be making these available to the farmers who need it. There is a persistent problem, as it is perhaps globally, of invasive animals such as rats and chickens and other pest species that wreak havoc on crop production in Bermuda every year. We work with the farmers to deal with this, and we will continue to work with the farmers to use humane and environmentally friendly methods to combat this ongoing issue. Our Plant Protection Lab team will continue in their ongoing work to ensure that plant, food, and other biological imports bear no risk to the Bermuda environment or our biodiversity. That is their job, and that's why every day and every importation of any plant material, they rigidly inspect things like our Christmas trees. Just like to remind people, last year when we imported Christmas trees, we found a ant nest, a carpet ant nest embedded in one of the trees. If that nest had begotten loose in our environment, it would have not been a great thing. So their inspection and their rigid process of inspecting incoming plant material is crucial to our protection. The department will also continue to work with farmers to properly source affordable seed and plant materials that provide good yield and assist them with lowering local food production costs. The ministry has also resumed its work with the Ministry of Public Works to redevelop the Agricultural Service and Marketing Center in Prospect. This facility is crucial to continuing the development of agriculture in Bermuda. If farmers are going to produce more, and there is a critical need when they produce more to store the fruits of their labor, especially for those crops that store well, like carrots. Also, subject to budgetary approvals, a replacement agricultural service center and the critical equipment in this upcoming financial year and all the infrastructure that comes with that, we hope we can get started on. Because this particular center, once completed, will greatly contribute to the ability for farmers to produce and store and increase available local food. At this time, both the crop strategy, which was in place between 2016 and 2021, and the draft dairy strategy, which was drafted in 2013, are under review to better reflect what will be the current needs of these components of the industry, particularly since the pandemic. Issues such as in-field disease identification and prevention, and soil health and management, and seed selection have been discussed with the Bermuda farmers and the Bermuda Farmers Association. And the government will provide assistance to address these issues. The result, we hope, will be increased production on the table of every resident. Similarly, a key initiative to assess the opportunities that produce more of what we are already importing and to increase production of crops currently grown by farmers will continue to work with farmers to see how we can support them in different ways. As previously stated, land as a critical component is currently at premium. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources will complete what is a GIS-based arable land audit to identify additional opportunities for new production fields. We anticipate having the resources to support this critical work and others that I have mentioned in the first quarter of the upcoming year, 2023. The ministry will also produce amendments to the Agricultural Act of 1930 to correctly identify commercial farmers who sell goods along Bermuda's roadsides and strengthen the penalties for those who are not properly registered farmers and who participate, unfortunately, in night farming, as we've discussed earlier. Lastly, we will work with the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation to explore and provide additional opportunities for investment in local farming, but also in local manufacturing from the island's food producers. And with that, I'd like to say thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Minister. We'll now accept questions from the media.
Good afternoon, Minister. Gary Foster-Skelton, Bermuda Broadcasting. Just to touch on what you said about the shipments having arrived, seed shipments having arrived for potatoes and strawberries, I was getting the understanding that it may already be too late to get a good harvest of potatoes. Is that not the case? Have the farmers got their seeds in time to provide a good harvest for Bermuda?
I would say that's incorrect, if that's the view you've been getting. Last year, the potato seed didn't come until March. Okay. So, and perhaps you should speak to the farmers who were bringing in that seed as to why it came in late. But the seed is here. That will allow farmers, we are currently in the growing season. So they couldn't have started really planting until perhaps 4 weeks ago anyway. Okay. So unless they had those crops in a little earlier, such as the carrots and others, which we are now, and many of the produce that people are benefiting from, but they wouldn't have been able to plant the potato that early. So the seed is here. Last year, it came much later into 2022. So I'm certain that now that it's here and it's available, they will begin planting, and we will have the crop that everybody likes usually, which happens during the spring. And that should be appropriate. Okay. And, so it's not too late, despite the opinions, but again, it came in much later last year and there wasn't any complaints.
Okay. You spoke about the carrots. Local farmers say carrots were wiped out somewhat in the recent hurricane and are difficult to find. How does government support farmers during times like this when staple crop supplies are low?
Well, the government doesn't participate in farming. We support farming. So the embargo that's in place is to ensure that farmers get the maximum return from whatever they can produce. So that's one reason why there's an embargo on carrots at the moment. And we will do whatever we can to help whatever they need to do to ensure that they can, even though they've had these issues, that they will get support in whatever production that they can do. So we will support them in any way they can, that like we can, so that they can, even having had these setbacks, that they can continue to plant, that whatever resources they need, as you know, we already support them considerably on any resources they do need. And we will continue to support whatever they say they need to continue to advance production.
Well, referring to what you said in your statement about protections against natural and unnatural threats, when it comes to loss of crops like carrots, and there used to be a century fund, we understand, that was being discussed as a vehicle to protect farming and food security. Now, you referred about these protections that may come in this new agricultural plan. So what vehicle might we use to mitigate the potential impact of hurricanes and natural disasters on the farming industry, their equipment and labor?
I'm not aware of any Century Fund that you referred to. That's not anything that's been brought up to me during this administration. Perhaps it's from another administration prior. I'm happy to receive information on that, but I have no knowledge of any Century Fund.
So what in the new plans you have, what are the mitigation measures, whether it be insurance or anything else that will help protect them from natural and unnatural losses such as hurricanes?
As I informed you, sir, I will be working with the Ministry of Economy and Labor to develop a wider integrated strategy. And we'll go through whatever issues and come up with whatever potential solutions there are to support farmers. The issue of insurance can certainly be discussed. It's nothing that has never ever been discussed with myself as the minister responsible for agriculture, but those are things I'm happy to investigate and research to see how we can do it to support farmers. Certainly, if the farmers want to investigate an insurance product, there are insurers here that they can have that discussion with to see if they can develop a product for them so that they can insure their crops against loss.
Okay. So right now we're looking at very much the embryo stages of this agricultural plan. There's nothing so much of a solid plan going yet.
Isn't that what I said? I said that I will be working with the minister on an integrated strategy going forward, and I will bring that information on that strategy when we have something to report.
Okay. Touching on a different subject, I understand yesterday your ministry received a letter from the Fishermen's Association requesting to arrange a meeting so they can make representations regarding the Bermuda Ocean Prosperity Plan with the intent to, quote, resume consultation in a restructured format that is mutually beneficial, end quote. You previously told us that your door was open on this matter. Will you be arranging a meeting with Alan Bean and the Fishermen's Association?
I don't have anything to say on that matter at this point. That communication is being reviewed by my technical officers, and I will respond accordingly to their requests. Up to this point, as you would say, sir, and you didn't say this in your just comment, is that they're the ones who decided they were not talking to me at all. They said it at their press conference, which you attended some weeks ago. They said that they were not prepared to speak to the BOP or anyone any further on the issues around the Marine Spatial Plan. So if they have changed their position, we will review that and consider what they have said to us. But that answer, I will ensure that we will respond to them accordingly.
Okay. Presuming from the letter that they have changed, they want to meet, your door is open as you told us? Okay. I will note that the letter that they sent said the fishermen are opposed to the implementation of suggested fishing restrictions until a comprehensive fish stock analysis has been done. Has such an analysis been done ahead of the proposed, and I emphasize, the proposed restrictions?
Mr. Skelton, I would not prepare to answer those detailed questions at this point. We can provide you with answers at a later date. This press conference was about agriculture. The matters concerning the fisheries, you've had exhaustive opportunity to speak to myself and the department on this already. And if you have further questions, you can put them in writing and we will provide you with answers.
Thank you. Well, we were told when we were given the press conference alert that it was for food security. So these questions would fall into that category. My final question, BEDC has put out a request for proposal on an acre of land at Blue Hole for an agricultural co-op. What are your thoughts on this, and why has government decided to put this type of project out to tender?
BEDC, I think you need to put the questions to them about the purposes of doing that. The work around the agriculture co-op is not under my ministry. It is under the BEDC, which is under the Ministry of Economy and Labor, so they can best answer questions around that in detail. I have nothing against any efforts to advance or support agriculture in Bermuda, but that's about all I can say on that. It is not an initiative that's being piloted by my ministry. It is being piloted under Economy and Labor.
Okay. Thank you, Minister.
Good afternoon, Minister.
Afternoon.
Season's greetings.
Season's greetings.
On food security, there's been a delay in the much vaunted vertical farming plan. Calera, the US company, pulled out. What part was that plan due to play in food security, and where are we now?
Again, that's a plan that was being piloted by another ministry. It was, as you well know, a part of the Economic Recovery Initiative. And any details as to what will happen next, I would ask that you present those to the Ministry of Economy and Labor and the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation, because they're the ones who have the most detailed understanding of that project and where it's intending to go. It was a business development initiative under the Economic Recovery Plan, and they know the most about where that will go next.
But this press conference was meant to be about food security. So what's your opinion on that, about where we go now?
It's a part of the Economic Recovery Plan. So I support the plan, but where that particular initiative goes from here is something that's best discussed with the ministry that was responsible for it.
Okay, in your statement, you touched on the underuse of agricultural land. It's about 50% of arable land is actually being used for food production at the moment. What specifically is the government doing or plans to do to increase that?
As I said, I'm developing an integrated agricultural strategy in partnership with the Minister for Economy and Labor, and that will address the steps that we will work with farmers, current farmers, and inspiring farmers to advance further food production in Bermuda. So you will hear more about that with our integrated strategy. And but at the moment, I support anyone or any farmer who wishes to advance production or find ways and solutions to advance their production in any way. But we want to develop an integrated approach so that we can actually assist farmers with not only with what they're doing, but also finding ways to encourage further investment and development of what they're doing as well. And also to ultimately factor in how new technology and new technology initiatives in farming are going to be incorporated going forward. So integrated strategy I mentioned in my statement will address all those issues.
How long will that take to develop, and which specific areas are you looking to develop in?
We will have more on that for you in the first quarter of next year, and we're happy to ensure you're here so you can hear all the details of what we are expecting to be focusing on. We will certainly have discussions with local farmers, with the Farmer Association, and others. The Board of Agriculture, which is under my ministry, is also participating. So we will have a wide process of consultation on the integrated strategy. And I look forward to bringing that to you all to present to you in detail with the Minister of Economy and Labor.
Sorry. Yeah. On Gary's question on fishermen, you didn't actually vocalize your response. Is your door still open to talks with them or not?
My response was given in the interview with Mr. Skelton some weeks ago, which you also reported on as well. In your paper, the ministry has never closed its door. But I must clarify a few things. Right now, there is an open process for the fishermen to participate in, and that is the Bermuda Ocean Prosperity Plan and the Ocean Village. They don't need to speak to me directly to be fully engaged with this process. Every fisherman in Bermuda can participate in this plan. Many have already provided ocean surveys towards the plan. So even though the Fishermen's Association has said that they are members up to this point, up to the letter that was received, I believe, by my ministry yesterday, that they were not encouraging the members to participate, they have been participating. But the door of the ministry and certainly the Bermuda Ocean Prosperity Plan process remains open to them to participate in at any time. There has never been a door closed for their participation in shaping the draft plan. I don't think I can say it any clearer. I said it to Mr. Skelton in my interview with him some weeks ago. I have said it in repeated statements during the repeated town halls we had, the same thing. This is a draft plan. It is not written in stone, and that it is meant and shaped to allow all those interested in ocean matters to shape and ensure that the ultimate plan reflects the real situation that we have in Bermuda around our ocean activities. Okay, and I don't think there's any more I can say on it.
On a slightly different aspect of your role, you've declared today belatedly on the travel calendar that your trip to Turks and Caicos in April cost the taxpayer $10,215.38. Do you think that's good value for money for the taxpayer? And if so, why?
If that is the figure, because I don't do the counting, if that's a figure for the TCI trip, I would say it is, because I went there to represent Bermuda. I was invited by the TCI government to speak to them about Bermuda and about the leadership that we are providing to the overseas territories around all ocean matters. It was about us working together with TCI and other overseas territories to advance the issues of ocean communities, including the protection of our biodiversity. And I was happy to oblige invitation from the minister and the government, because they felt that it was important that Bermuda and TCI and other OTs work together. And so I am proud to have participated on behalf of my country, and I will continue to do so as long as I'm allowed.
Okay, that trip was in April. We still don't have the figures, the travel expense figures for your trip to Lisbon in June, nor for multiple trips by the Premier in September to Prague, London and Brussels. Do you think the government is living up to its pledge to, quote, continuously update, unquote, the travel calendar of ministers with their expenses?
All I can say is that my understanding is that the lack of information that you may find, and I do believe, because you did make a query to my office on this recently, it was due to some technical challenges, which I believe have been fixed. And if you check, you should find more up-to-date information going forward. But it had to do with a technical glitch, not because there's a lack of interest in disclosing. I know I filed every piece of receipt and everything to do with my trips as soon as I return, and they get processed by those who process them. But I do believe that the recent delay has to do with some technological issues that were with the actual site, which we had to consult with the technological persons of government to fix.
But you're not concerned a technical glitch took 7 months to find out? We still don't know what the Premier spent in September.
I cannot speak to that. And I think any questions about the Premier's travel, you can put to the Cabinet Office to answer for you.
Finally, in July, it was announced there'd be like a $500,000 push on LED light bulbs. Where are we with that now?
That paper will be in Cabinet shortly, and to approve the money that has been actually allocated to spend. Anything above a certain amount has to be approved by the Cabinet, and that paper was being refined, and it will go to Cabinet certainly as soon as Cabinet meets next.
It was announced on July the 15th. We're now almost in next year. Would you like to apologize for people for not delivering the LED light bulbs to lower their energy bills?
I would apologize for any delay that we unfortunately have sometimes with delivering initiatives. It's not because we aren't trying to deliver, but the government has a very rigid process on procurement, sir, of which we want to follow, or else I'll have people like yourself criticizing me for spending irresponsibly. So this particular initiative had to go through a proper procurement process with finding quotes and then having those quotes evaluated so that we could come up with a reasonable price for the purchase of those bulbs. That process is what has been transpiring. And once it is properly concluded, of which you can check yourself, because this is public information, we will bring and make the appropriate spending so that we can pass out the bulbs to assist our people. But we have to do it right. We're not going to rush and do it in a way that's reckless and doesn't bring proper value to the taxpayers' dollar, even if it's good initiative.
Okay, thanks. Finally, you were talking about the theft of food. How big a problem is that actually?
The theft from local farmers is a serious problem, unfortunately. It typically happens in farms that are more close to the roadside, that are more accessible, but it is a problem. It literally does cut into the earnings and ability of farmers to provide local produce. And it's unfortunate it does happen. And I can tell you, because our farmers work very hard to do what they do. The resources it's a very labor-intensive industry. So having gone through the process and still having to deal with weather and other factors that might impede the production, the last thing they need is to have, and pests like rats and chickens and everything else that they have to deal with, the last thing they need is to have people actually deliberately going in and stealing their crop. It really does cut into their earnings and their ability to provide produce. So we're doing our best, as I said, with the cameras that we have procured and are testing, so that we can make it available to them to properly have proper surveillance of their actual crops. And we're also going to be changing legislation as well to make these sort of acts more severely punishable as well.
In what sense? What would the punishments be?
The fines will be higher for anyone who is certainly properly apprehended and identified with having stolen produce from farms in this matter.
A rough estimate, though, would it be like 20% of produce is being stolen, or would it be more than that?
I can't give you exact numbers. I just know from my discussions with farmers, it is one of the issues that come up with them regularly, particularly those who have farms that are close to accessible by high traffic areas that they experience farming. They do experience these thefts, and it's aggravating to them, the blatant disregard people who do it almost in broad daylight. And it does cut into their ability to provide affordable produce. So I can't give you an exact number. I just know that it's a concern that whenever I speak to a farmer, they constantly bring it up.
Do you think it's blatant criminality, though, or is it because of the cost of living crisis and people are actually stealing to feed themselves in some instances?
I don't think the majority of instances are people who are trying to survive, because some of the persons are known to the farmers who are doing it, and they know that they're usually selling it somewhere else, or they're doing something else with it. It is not survival, because if it's a survival issue, we have ways that people can get food if they do need it. They don't need to steal from bananas or carrots or other accessible crops from our farmers, or corn, to do it. And I just give you an example. What would one person have to do with a whole field of onions? That's not about sustenance. That's about trying to make money to the disadvantage of somebody else. Because that's what we've seen. People literally whole fields of onions and corn and other crops being stolen in broad daylight in some cases from farmers. So that's not about survival. That's about profiting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. That is the final question today. I thank you all for attending, and Bermuda, have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. And